L9. Is there a motion to approve an ordinance granting 1, a special use permit for a planned unit development with certain exceptions, 2, a special use permit for a community center, and 3, a site plan for a community center building and accessory parking lot for certain real property located in the A1 Agricultural District at 15744 and 15800 West 151st Street, Homer Glen, Illinois, subject to the following conditions. PUD conditions. 1, meet all applicable engineering codes and requirements for final engineering prior to form site plan approval. 2, meet all applicable building codes and apply for all applicable required building permits. 3, any daycare use would require an amendment to the PUD and any applicable processes set forth in the village code. 4, require Bradford pear, miscanthus, and I can't even say that word, species proposed on the landscape plan to be submitted for a non-invasive comparable plant material. 5, require a dense evergreen vegetation along the east side of the building and parking lot. PUD exceptions. 1, to allow the parking lot landscape islands to be non-curbed. 2, to allow the garage receptacle to be located in the front yard where garbage receptacles are not permitted. 3, to allow the storage area of the garbage receptacle, they must be constructed of composite fencing. 4, to allow off-street parking in the required front yard. 5, to allow one wall sign on the south elevation of the proposed community center that meets the P1 zoning district wall sign regulations. 6, to allow the existing monument sign dual post to be relocated. Only one monument sign shall be allowed, and any future replacement sign shall meet the P1 zoning district monument regulations.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Trustee Stylen, Trustee Fialko. Is there discussion?
Yes. Actually, I would like to table this item. And the reason being is in the Will Cook soil and water report, it said that the soil was very limited for a building and for a septic. Now, we received word from Jay Braddock today that there is a septic plan, but we have not seen a septic plan. And I would like to see something approved by Will County first. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Dan.
Dan?
I had a second. I don't believe we should be tabling this item. We got the, Mr. Westcott gave us some information today on that to update us. This has been going on for a long time. The Planning Commission has approved this. We just to start off from the beginning, I'd like to say, for this, a long time ago, there was, in 1998, there was a voter approval to sought by open space low development. And now this is what it said on January 12, 1998. The Preservation Homer Committee recommended last week that the township ask voters to approve a $10 million bond issue. If the board approves the idea, Supervisor Ron Savara, who is 3 supervisors ago, I believe, or more, could be held in November. The money would be used to purchase lands for parks, to build a bike trail, a community center. The Preservation Homer Committee, which is an official committee of the township, is looking for ways to slow development and halt annexations by nearby municipalities. Savara said preserving open space is one way the township's atmosphere could be improved. So this was started a long time ago. At this point, what the township, for the folks that don't know, what the township did on January 26, 2022, what they did is they annexed Trantina Farm into Homer Glen to protect our boundary. So we were working together 2 years ago to protect the boundary so that annexation from Lockport doesn't happen. So the thing is, the Planning Commission then looked at this, and it took a couple meetings, and they they approved of it 4-1. We don't have a park district building, and we don't want to raise taxes to come up with a park district building for the village, so this fits perfectly in Homer Glen. It'll take care of senior events, special needs, sports. There are no tax increases that are planned to go along with this project. Volunteers are expected to help get it kick-started as far as if you're wondering how it would be staffed. There is grant funding that is being, that has been given to the township for that project. And this project doesn't just affect Homer Glen. I mean, we're kind of voting on this as Homer Glen, but realistically, this doesn't just affect the 24,500 people in Homer Glen. What it does, it includes, the township includes also Lamont residents, Lockport residents, New Lenox residents, and unincorporated portions of Orland Park, just to the east of us. So there are 41,000 residents, not just 24,500 that will benefit from this project. And I think it's selfish if we were to only think of ourselves here in Homer Glen as this project, sharing this project with the community at whole. And I see no reason to table this item at all. It's gone through all the challenges, and the meetings were endless. It went back to Planning Commission before. Planning Commission has approved it, so I don't see any reason why we need to table it.
Is there a second to table this?
I'll make that motion. And, you know, I've been around a while, and I've seen pools being built and parks being done and told that I wasn't going to be taxed, and I knew it was for the children, and I knew that I was told I wouldn't have to pay to get in, all these different things, because I lived in another suburb, southwest suburb, prior to moving to Homer Glen, and again, the taxes went up. We were charged to get in, so I don't believe that. And so saying selfish, I question that as well, because this is in our backyard. It may not be, it may be township. I've heard the people of the township. I've heard the people of the village. I hear for, I hear against. I have a lot of reserves when it comes to the drainage, the condition of the property. I remember the permitting process, the dumping that was done on the land from Orland Park. So I have a bunch of concerns too, and I'm with Trustee Stylen. I think it should be tabled at this time. I don't think that, you know, that we should be waiving. If we don't waive for public service officials, we have some public service officials that came in front of this board that wanted to put aluminum on their side, and I'm seeing all these exceptions here. I don't agree with those either, so I'm all for tabling.
Okay. Is there any discussion?
Yes,
Any
I'd like
more
discussion.
on the tabling? Trustee McNaughton, do you have anything to say?
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, a couple of key issues that come to mind. The sewer system, as Trustee Stylen spoke to, you know, the Illinois EPA designates who provides the sewage services. Trentina property obviously falls under the City of Lockport's FPA, currently doesn't permit the sewer line extension. The community center will need a septic system, as we know, due to the inability to connect to that sewer line. The property is deemed very limited for septic systems, posing a potential significant challenge. The report indicates, this is on the report indicates unfavorable soil conditions, likely leading to poor performance and potential maintenance of the septic system. And then also concerns about the groundwater contamination due to inadequate effluent filtration. Thank you.
Order, please. Trustee
Yes.
Consolino?
Okay. I'm not hearing very sufficient reasons right now compared to what we've been going through. I'd also like to go on the record tonight, because anybody who's paid attention to my career with all of this, you know, I was opposed to this back in 2020, and I was very vocal. And the people that I saw, you know, come and speak a public, you know, comment tonight, and on other occasions, none of those people came and spoke during 2019 or 2020 before this went to referendum. When it went to referendum, and I want to read this off because it passed. Our Homer Township residents passed. They said what they wanted on November 6, 2020. Says, shall the Homer Township Board, in accordance with its open space program, pursue grant funding without increasing or adding any new real estate taxes for the purposes of constructing a multi-purpose pole barn style structure to be used for educational, environmental, recreational, and social community activities, okay? And that's what we're looking at here tonight. Now, when this went back before the Planning Commission back in June, they passed it unanimously. So, yes, they passed it unanimously with, yes, they did, point of order. They passed it unanimously with the comment that as long as it abided by our ordinances and okay. So they did that, and actually there was like 2 votes, which I thought was really weird, because one person said no at first, and then they went back and voted a second time, but they voted unanimously. And so I don't understand why we would go against the Planning Commission if they voted in favor of it. We don't have a park district here in Homer Glen or in Homer Township. Our township has been around since 1837, I believe. I don't see the logic. You know, I feel like this board, or certain members on this board, have made very political statements publicly on the dais and made decisions that were very politically based against Homer Township over the past year and a half. And I would like to hope that this is not another one, but I can't help but feel that this is politically based. And I don't feel like screwing over our community and our residents that voted. Let me go and tell you exactly how many voted in favor. So it was a total of 21,213 votes. 13,585 voted yes for this. 7,628 voted no. So it's almost double. It's not even close. And when I look at that, and I look at, it wasn't just in the OSLA grant. I know that Mrs. Robinson got up and spoke, you know, but in the OSLA grant itself, it says that you could, you know, use it for trails, you could use it for structures, you could use it for things that benefit our community. I see what the township is doing as a benefit to the community. I don't want to politic anymore with this board. We went through the bond agreement from 1990, so even before the OSLA grant was, you know, before we received it, you go through the 600 pages with the bond agreement. It clearly says in there as well that they could have a structure. They could, it's bettering it, okay? It's using the land as open space, but they're complementing it for the community. And Trustee Fialco just read off to you what they said, what they meant. I don't understand what the problem is here, and if this board is going to vote against it, or they're going to vote to table it, now you're jeopardizing time-sensitive grant funding. And I want you to think about that very carefully, because if somebody chooses to sue us over this, because maybe it is political, and we don't have sufficient reasoning based on everything that it took to get to this point, you know, how do you explain that? You don't. So I don't want to see the township lose a much needed grant, and by holding this up for more nonsense, I feel like that's what you're doing. You're damaging our community, you're taking away grant funding. Why? So no, I am completely opposed to tabling this tonight. I would rather us all vote. If you're not going to vote for it, that's fine. That's your prerogative. That is your role, and we make hard decisions on this board every single meeting, right? So let the cards lie where they're going to lie.
Okay, excuse me. I've done a little bit of research on what community centers, what they look like, how they are respective to their residents and their community, and I just have a couple things that I would like to say. A community center is a place that provides services and programs for the community. Over the last week, I have researched various centers. They appear to be very organized and ran very efficiently. They involve the entire community in their programs, and all the programs are geared toward the needs of the residents. Although I believe a community center would benefit our residents, I have to wonder, why was there no input from the residents, the village, or Lockport on the design, the purpose, the uses, or the economic impact it will have on our residents? There were no workshops, no town hall meetings. There was no value put on the input of the residents. Now, I'm not saying that I think a community center is a bad thing. What I am saying is that there was no value put on the input of our residents. Our residents did not have a say in how what the vision was for this community center. I asked the Board of Trustees for the township, who is going to manage this facility and maintain it, design the programs? Have any of you done an economic analysis on what it will cost the residents for any additional policing or safety measures? Is the building all there is? Is there a plan to transform the grounds of Trantina? Will improvements be done in phases? What about the other structures on the farm? Are they going to be repaired? I have so many questions. Order, please, I'm speaking. I have a lot of questions. If this is to pass tonight, there should be conditions placed upon the PUD. I want the center to be something we all can be proud of. I want a community center for our area. I think it's needed, and I think the seniors and our handicapped children will benefit from it, but not done this way, not without the input of the residents. I know Supervisor Belich's intentions are good, but moving forward in this process, if this passes tonight, I ask that you involve all of the residents in any future endeavors pertaining to this. This center is supposed to be for the benefit of our community. So let's get our community involved. And that's all I have.
Roseman.
Yes. Trustee Fialko.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just want to answer a question that was thrown out there. We talked about the annexation agreement and the benefit, that gave this village in protecting our boundary. With that, it came with an annexation agreement, and Section 5 basically says after site plan approval by the village, the owner or its representatives may apply for a building permit for construction of structures on the property. The village shall act on each building permit within 15 days of the application. Therefore, the owner shall not be required to pay permit fees for any construction subject on the property. Owner should not be required to obtain a building permit for construction of gravel parking lot and subject property also. That's Section 5 of the annexation agreement. And the reason this was put together is because they gave value to incorporating that into Homer Glen and protecting our border. That's, if anyone's wondering, on January 26, 2022, that's when that agreement came together. And again, it was to protect our borders. But with that said, look, if you don't mind, could Brent Portvilio please come up and answer a few questions?
No, Trustee
because,
Fialko.
they can answer
Trustee
some of our
Fialko.
questions.
Trustee Fialko, please.
Well, I'm asking for that.
Okay. We have gone over this. This board has gone over this how many times?
We're in discussion, though, and I think he can answer the questions.
Let the trustees finish the discussion. There are things that they would like to say.
Okay, but, okay, as long as he gets a chance to speak.
So this is on discussion of motion to
Right.
table. That's what's sticking for.
Right. Trustee Stylen.
Well, this is the question because I just said one little statement that I wanted to table it because something I had asked for. It was brought up when there was a planning meeting between staff, village manager, and township officials in February. They were asked to provide a well and septic report or plan, and they did not. They were asked, another notice went out from Melissa King on May 8th. And then I also asked, on June 12th, I asked Taylor to ask them for the same thing. And here we are today, the day of the meeting, and we still have not seen the well and septic plan. And the reason why that is important is because that referendum, advisory referendum, said that this wasn't going to cost anything to taxpayers and it was to go out for grant funding. If you don't have a well and septic plan, how do you know how much it is going to cost to build this facility? You do not know that. You don't even know if you're going to fund it. You don't know if the building is even going to be in the right place, if you're going to have to mitigate the soil. But you're not presenting them to us. You're asking us for, we need to approve something and we have a document, and we are requesting a document and we do not have it. So therefore, I think it's to be tabled. Now, if you want me to give all sorts of other reasons, I have read every document in this packet. I have visited the site. I have visited the Lamont Township Community Center. I have spoken with with many of the Open Space Committee members. I spoke to Ron Savara, who also was the man who chaired the effort to do the open space property. I have spoken to the Lincoln Way Recreation Center about the wheelchair basketball. I have spoken to Cross of Glory about their senior programs. I have attended township board meetings, and I attended our Plan Commission meeting when this project was presented. I've also talked to Supervisor Balich, and I told him that I would let him know if I had an objection, and I'm sorry, but I've been waiting for this document, so that's why I didn't call you. And so I have many reasons and concerns. I can bring them up, but there is no point in bringing them up until we have all the material before us. Thank you.
Okay, clerk, please call the roll on the motion to table.
Is everyone done with discussion?
Yes.
I didn't get a second round.
Neither.
Trustee Stylen, this is on the motion, or on the table, right?
On the motion to table.
Point of order. I didn't get a second discussion. Dan did, Sue did, Mason didn't,
That's correct.
It's up to you if you want to have it. It's not required.
and I went on the record that she's not.
It's not required to have any discussion on the motion table.
Okay,
No, if you want, just let them talk.
Go ahead.
It's time, go ahead.
go ahead.
Trustee Mason. I appreciate that the township was working with us through the annexation agreement to protect our borders. We do appreciate that. I'm not against the community center. I never said that I was. I'm with Trustee Stylen. I'm worried about the or the community, nature, and harmony. That's what bothers me. Everybody talks about 143rd and coming through here and keeping it rustic and beautiful, and I get all that, and protecting our properties. Well, this is our property too. It's an annexation agreement that it was going to be open spaces, and I get that the Civic Center could be put on there. I'm not opposed to that. You bring up New Lenox, Lockport, Lamont, all these other places. It's being built in our backyard. It's being built in our backyard. The runoff has got to go somewhere. There's houses there. There's, as Trustee CJ McNaughton had brought up, please, point of order. As Trustee McNaughton had brought up, what is the plan for the sewage? Where is that water going? Are they gonna expand it? If you have 200 people a day at an event, I know what my house would look like. That water has to go somewhere. That sewage, that refuge goes somewhere. We saw what happened with the clay already. So I would like all the information in front of me as well. Thank you.
I'm just going to reiterate what I stated before, what Planning Commission stated, and how they were in favor, why they were in favor, what they said would prevent it. I also want to state that this is not our municipality, and although we might run things a certain way and have lots of meetings and money spent on town center discussion, that the township is not held to the same standards that we are. I agree with, I wish that we had all information presented before us, but why didn't the Planning Commission deny it then? So again, why do we have a Planning Commission then? You know, they're supposed to be very thorough. Everything we depend on goes through them, and it was voted on unanimously. So I'm going to remind everybody on this board, because I can see exactly where it's going. You table this, you're hurting grant funding. You are hurting our community. We are not in charge of that municipality. They are completely separate. And so therefore, I feel that you are leaving, you're not just hurting the community, you're leaving this board, this village liable, because I think we're in breach of the annexation agreement. So I just want that duly noted. Yeah, because they're going to lose it. We're going to lose annexation too. Watch them go somewhere else.
Sorry, Trustee McNaughton.
Yeah, just reading through the packet here once again, you know, numerous residents have voiced their concerns about the lack of resident consultation on the project. Many in the community have highlighted the absence of resident input and the historical use of the land as farmland. In fact, Ms. Robinson pointed out that the property was purchased with an OSLAD grant fund, which was used for open space, not for development. Approving this project without adequate consultation undermines the community trust and disregards the voices of our residents who will be directly impacted by these changes. The development will result in the loss of valuable open space, which is a critical resource for the community. The transformation of this land into a community center and parking lot contradicts the original intent of preserving open spaces and to provide residents of rural areas for leisure. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee McNaughton. At this time, I would like to call on Brent Westcott to explain the well and septic, please.
Yes, so today we received from Mr. Bradrich a septic plan, what was submitted to Carl Septic, their septic field designer. So their septic field designer has come up with a design that accounts the appropriate capacity, 281 people, I believe, and it meets all the appropriate Illinois Department of Public Health standards as well. They have not submitted it to the Will County Health Department yet because there is a permit fee that's associated with that. So they're waiting to submit it to the Will County Health Department until after approval by the board. So that was the email that we sent out earlier, right? It's been designed, it meets the IDPH standards. That sketch plan that I received, you know, to me, right, it seems that for that plan, right, they've done infiltration testing. There's several soil borings that are designated on that plan that show the infiltration testing, and it's been designed to some degree, right, of septic approval. Obviously, if they're going to submit it to Will County, it needs to meet those standards. It needs to meet that capacity. So the email that I received and the plans I received from Mr. Bradrich today, that's what they're going to be submitting to Will County. It's just that they haven't submitted it yet because there's a permit fee associated with that, so they're waiting to pay that permit fee until after they get their approval.
And checking these are the right calculations according to...
We don't approve the septic design. Will County Health Department approves the septic design.
But I mean, did you review this?
All I did was take in these documents,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
The Will County Health Department ultimately is the one who makes the approval on the septic system design.
Okay,
And
thank
stamps
you.
off on that. We take those documents in, and it's a check mark right on our permit approval process.
Okay. So is it standard for well and septic to get approval before moving forward?
I've only been here for 2 years. I haven't seen it. I know it's just part of the process, right? Prior to me issuing final acceptance on the engineering plans, I need to see that approval from Will County.
Okay. Where's Melissa when you need her? Okay, clerk, can you please call the roll?
Motion to table.
I'm sorry, on the motion to table.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino? I'm afraid they're going to de-annex, so no. Trustee Fialko?
No, absolutely not.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
No.
So the table fails. Motion to table fails.
Okay, so motion to table fails.
Okay. Now there's a move. Now you want to make a motion to approve the...
Right. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to have to move on to a vote. Is there a motion to approve?
We didn't really have
Discussion.
discussion. We only had discussion on the tabling. I think we should go on just a step further. And again, there's been answers here, and maybe some answers could be given from Brent Portfolio, and just give him the podium for 2 minutes or 3 minutes to let him answer the questions that maybe need to be answered.
Okay.
And yes, we're entitled to discussion on it.
Okay, right now, is there any more discussion on the motion to approve?
I'm going to give the suggestion of exactly what Trustee Fialko said. If there are questions, which there are by 4 of you, I think that now is the time to ask before this vote takes place. I think this is a
Absolutely.
smart choice. You have an opportunity here to ask those questions and receive an answer. Whether you're happy with that answer or not, I think that is the proper procedure about going this way before voting.
May I?
Trustee, this is discussion, so, all right, I'm going to start with trustee Consolino.
Are you calling the vote?
No, discussion.
No, that's my recommendation. I'm happy with what I've said already.
Trustee McNaughton.
No, ma'am.
Trustee Fialko.
Yes, we've said a lot, but usually we are not denied having somebody come to the podium.
I never said I was
No,
Trustee
I have the
Fialko,
floor.
Point of order, he's still
I never
speaking.
said that I wasn't going to.
Oh,
So
okay.
don't- please don't put words in my mouth.
Point of order, he's
After
still
talking to
speaking.
Mike. Okay, good, I'm
He's
glad to
still
hear,
speaking.
thank you for addressing that. I'm looking forward to hearing the questions that will be presented to Mr. Portfolio. I think, like trustee Castellino said, that there are questions. Let the man answer the questions, and that, so I don't have, as long as we're going to do that, I have nothing else. Thank you.
All righty. Trustee Mason.
Yeah, I feel even in the annexation agreement that has been written, it was to the sole benefit of the township. It waives thousands of dollars in fees. The fees that they are asking us to waive, some of these are for outside consultants that the village has already paid out of pocket. Bottom line, I have the EDPA concerns. They're not going to go away. We may not be able to say no on this. And I'm not saying, again, I like both sides. I've heard the audience today from township to village for and against. And I would like all the information in front of me, and I don't have that. Now, Mr. Westcott had stated that, you know, they're waiting for us to say okay so they can put it in. And how do we know Will County is going to approve that? I don't even know that. Mr. Westcott also stated that he didn't even review it. So if he hasn't reviewed it, what do we have this board for? Well, isn't the board to help make these decisions? Otherwise, you don't need us. Just like, you know, if it goes through a committee and a committee makes a mistake, what do you need this board for? Then you might as well just get rid of the board and do it with committees.
Madam Chair?
That's enough for now.
Madam Chair? I'm listening to what trustee Mason is saying. I'd like to make a motion to amend with conditions, okay? That this go through only, you know, if the sewer gets approved. Okay, that's reasonable, isn't it? It's reasonable. Okay, then how about we make that condition, as long as everything is okay with that, then we could, Mike, does that sound feasible?
You asking?
Yes.
So what she's asking is for a motion
Right.
to amend
Right.
or to add a condition to the
Right,
approval,
right.
which would be an amendment to this. So
Right.
is there a second on the amendment to
Okay.
add the condition?
Okay.
Is there,
But don't we have to finish?
no, that's, it's
It
taken.
supersedes it, yeah. Okay, is there a second on the amendment?
I'll second that. Although it looks like Mr. Westcott's got something.
You want to call him
Director
up?
Westcott?
Just really quick, I would say that would fall under PUD condition number 1, that they need to meet all applicable engineering codes and requirements for final engineering
Okay.
prior to formal site plan approval.
Okay.
Mike, does that sound reasonable?
That Will County Health approval would fall under that PUD condition, that first condition of the PUD.
But I'm sorry, may I ask?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Mr. Westcott, can you read that again? Would that be prior to site plan approval?
Meet all applicable engineering codes and requirements for final engineering prior to formal site plan approval.
So the site plan would not be approved until the sewer or the septic plan would be approved by Will County?
That is correct.
There you go. Perfect.
Do you want to withdraw your motion?
I'll withdraw my second.
Yes, as long as it applies, I will withdraw my motion.
Okay, is there any more discussion?
Yeah, I have a lot more to say.
Okay. Trustee Seiler?
Okay, the reason this brought up is because I said, if you have to mitigate, we don't know what any mitigation is going to be and what it's going to cost. At the Plan Commission meeting, Supervisor Balich said that there are no grants, and the one grant that he does have is based on well and septic. So we don't know where the funding for this project is going to be. So that he said that they were looking for grants actively every day. You could get the OSLED grant, but then you would have to come up with half the money. We don't have half the money. We have to get grants where we get all the money. That's what we've been doing, getting grants where all the money comes in. Once we get the building up, we have to get money without going to taxpayers to buy tables and chairs. So there's a lot of other things that are still in this plan that are in question, is the funding for it. This past month, we spent more than $4,000 on the parks that we inherited from the township. If this building and site plan and everything doesn't go through, we might inherit that mess. And so I'm just want to be very careful. So I also have conditions.
Order, please.
So in attachment 21, it said that the excess fill material brought in as part of the site development permit for 2023-5052 and not used as base for parking shall be removed, hauled off site, and disposed of appropriately. This area shall then be graded to pre-fill conditions for Will County 2021, sorry, my vision's not that great. 2021 contours can be used to, GIS contours can be used to determine the pre-existing conditions. Also, the existing groundings to be relocated under the proposed parking lot. So there are some other questions. These people brought in what they thought was clay fill, and now they're being told that they can't use them under a building. So I have reservations on
Trustee Stallings,
the engineering.
You have a lot of questions.
Yes, I do,
Now,
and
I'm
I
gonna-
want to be able to finish. I have the mic right now.
She has the floor.
Thank you. So in addition to those, I don't know if the, I have questions regarding the parking. This, one of the proposed uses was wheelchair, basketball. We have 52 parking spots, and I think like 4 or 5 are ADA accessible. Well, when you use wheelchairs, you're going to use up more parking because there's going to have to be a space in between every 2 parking spots. So then you're going to be using the grass. I have reservations about the distance of the front end of the parking lot to the road. So, so I have some reservations on the location on the building of the site. And when I was told that HR Green reviewed these plans twice, so I have a question for Director Westcott. When HR Green reviewed these plans, did they know that sewer was not going to be used?
Like in terms of sanitary sewer?
Well, because we received an email about the grading or something, and it had a 015 and 515, and I was told that that was because it was based on a sewer location.
As far as I recall, the plans have always indicated that there would be a septic system utilized on site. There's no other utilities in that area, and that would be an additional substantial cost to the township, right, to try and connect to something. And even with that, right, we're talking IGAs with Lockport. We know that that's not feasible. So their plan from the get-go was always to use a septic field on site. The plans were reviewed accordingly. So from the first review, right, I still have that comment open on my list right now that says pending Will County Health Department approval, right? It just calls it on the plans as septic system to be designed by others and then pending Will County Health Department approval. So from the get-go, it's always been well and septic on site.
Okay, well, I would just like whoever reviewed that plan to I would like an additional review.
I can certainly get a statement from them on that. I guess I just need more clarification on what the 015 and 515 refers to. Mm-hmm. Is it?
You know what, Joe, did you get that email? It was from a resident. I don't know if I have that one, but I'll get it to you.
I don't think it was.
It's the pitch and the topography, is what Trustee Mason was saying. It's something, they said it's supposed to be 0 and it was 5 or something.
the topography really wouldn't contribute to it wouldn't make a difference to whether you're using septic or whether you're using sewer. I guess really a septic field, you're going to grade out a flat area so you can install the septic field, and whatever the natural topography is there, you're going to restore to the existing condition if you're going to put a sewer line in the ground. So whatever the property's graded to wouldn't impact that, right? The septic field leaches into the ground. It doesn't discharge on the surface. And if it was a sanitary pipe, that waste would be contained in that pipe and then sent off-site elsewhere to a treatment plant. But that's not even the
Okay, and I'd also like to make mention that in the building plans, it said that there's plans for a future kitchen. So there is no kitchen in this building at the moment, when it's finished.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
I
so
have to
this is just
verify.
going to be a gymnasium with a cement floor.
Yes, I believe so at this
Okay.
time. Yes.
So I just want to make sure that people are aware of that.
Yes. I would like to bring Brent Porfilio up at this time.
Thank you.
I was just hoping that Brent
Excuse-
Porfilio would be able to answer some of the questions. Give him the mic first for a couple.
Can I speak?
Bill's with me, he's
Oh,
the
sure,
engineer
sure,
for the
sure.
project. Dan?
Awesome, thank you for coming up to the podium.
Okay, all right. Done? All right.
Okay.
Of this board, who has questions for Commissioner Porfilio? We will go around one time.
Mr. Porfilio,
I'm gonna-
how big is this septic field that is supposed to take this in? If you have 280, 81, is that the number I heard earlier? People per day per event, that's a lot of sewage.
Per event.
Is your mic
208
on?
There's only 39 parking stalls, yet it's being sized for 281. That's the maximum capacity.
Is your mic on, Brent?
Yep,
Okay.
yeah, it's on. You see that?
Yeah, but my question is, how big is the septic field?
It's approximately 60 feet
It's 60 by 50. It's 60 by 50.
And if this goes to Will County and they grant it, at that point, I don't see an issue, like I said, with conditions.
Like Brett had said, Trustee Mason, the Department of Public Health that he looked at, that's all they look at the county. They look at the infiltration test, which is very important. That's probably the most important part of all of it. And then they look at the size and the capacity. There's not a lot of variables when you design a septic system. The most important, like Trustee Steinle said, is the soils. That's the most important. And there were borings done and an infiltration test done in the footprint of the septic field. And that's what's required for the permit.
And so all that clay that was brought in prior now has to
Clay
be
was-
removed in order for that to meet that?
No.
I'm
No,
asking.
it's at the north end of the site.
All
The
right.
clay that was brought in was in the southeast corner.
And that clay still does have to be removed, correct?
Yeah, the footprint of the septic field is completely outside the boundary of the clay fill, completely outside the boundary of
So
it.
that free clay that we had gotten, I'm just, I'm
It's
sorry,
still there.
I'm beating a dead horse, but I
It's still
remember when
there.
it came in, that it was all free and we were making a great deal, but now we have to have it paid to take back out.
I'm not, no. The clay is going to stay on site. It was clean clay fill, it was tested before it was brought to the site, and I said that about 20 times. I don't know what you're talking about grindings. There's no grindings out there. It's clean clay. You can walk down the street and look at it yourself. There's no grindings out there. It's grass and clay, and that's it. And a silt fence.
So if we pass this today, this is just for you to get the sewage part of it, to get it started, because is this going to come back in front of us? Because there are exceptions or conditions that I would like to see. I would like to see curbs. I would like to see the garbage not being in the front and maybe have a brick or I guess not even brick, maybe a green space around it or something to avoid having to look at that. So there are other things that I'd like to see done. Again, community, nature, and harmony is the way I see it.
When the site plan was designed, it was according to the requirements of the village, and they met all of them. There was no other conjecture about, well, why don't we do this or why don't we do that? They were bound by the requirements of the engineering department and the building permit process, which has everything written in stone. And then, of course, there's exceptions up on the top. The ADA spaces that are provided, a lot of the kids would be bussed in vans, and some of them dropped off. They're not staying there for the day. So 4 or 5 stalls, the ones that are required per code, are not a problem if there's going to be an activity for wheelchair basketball. Most of the time, the kids are dropped off and picked up after the event. They do not stay there. So if you're worried about number of spaces for wheelchair basketball, that's not how that works.
I think I'm done with my questioning for the
Okay,
moment.
trustee Cancelino?
You know, I'm going to ask a question, Mr. Porfilio and Bill and Supervisor Balich, but I want to point something out, okay? And I don't mean this to be ignorant. When it's been stated to me past 3 board meetings, I think you'll remember, these are all questions that should have been asked either at Planning Commission or of staff or by any of them. The Planning Commission date, the last one, was on June 18th, where they voted unanimously. That's the time all of this should have been asked and answered. Or contacting the township, because I'm going to ask them right now. Gentlemen, did anyone ask you any of these questions or express these concerns, okay, that you're hearing tonight from Trustee McNaughton, Trustee Mason, Trustee Stylen, Trustee Ryder? Brent?
Trustee Stylen did show up at a township meeting, and she did express concerns about the soils, yeah.
Okay, but any of this other stuff?
But all the soil stuff is being mitigated, but any of the other stuff, no.
Supervisor Balich, you had a discussion, I know, with both Trustee Reimers and Trustee Stylen.
Yes, it's real clear. In February, we wanted to come for March. We were told we can't. You guys had to cancel it for some reason. Then we were told to come in April, and it was canceled. Then we were told to come in May, and it was canceled. And then we were told to come in June. We went to the Planning Commission. They passed it unanimously. And now we're going here, and I got news for you. If that ain't political, I don't know what the heck is. You guys should be ashamed of yourselves. This is for kids and families and nonprofit groups, and you're sitting there talking about how it's a piece of junk. We have 41,000 people in Homer Township. You have 24,000 something in Homer Glen.
Supervisor Balich.
I'm just going to say this one more time.
We understand your
You guys
frustration.
signed an agreement and you're in breach.
Order.
Bill, again, same thing. Did anyone come to you with any of these questions prior to this point, or any of these concerns?
No, I did not get any.
Thank you.
contact.
Trustee Fialko?
Mr. Porfilio, thank you for answering these questions. The question was asked of you, I believe, while you were having a conversation to cover another question, but I want to ask you, the clay that was brought in, that there was the big controversial thing about, the clay has been tested and the clay is all clean.
Yep.
No clay needs to be removed, as far as I understand. Is that factual?
Correct, there's no grindings out there. I don't know who said there was, there's none.
But, okay, the grindings in the clay are the same thing, or are
No,
grindings
they're
separate
different.
from clay?
Asphalt grindings are completely different.
Okay,
The clay
so
fill that came in had to be clay or we wouldn't have accepted.
outside of the grindings, I'm specifically talking about the clay. The clay has been tested, and it's clear of any contaminants, or
Yes.
it doesn't have to be removed for any reason. It's staying, correct?
It's the platform for the parking lot and the building. And if it has to be graded for final grading, that's all that has to be done.
And would you agree that from the PUD, number 1, meet all applicable engineering codes and requirements for final engineering prior to formal site plan approval is part of the normal process? To move forward with a project, you don't always have to get Will County to approve it before you can move forward, right? It's part of a process, as Mr. Westcott explained. Would you know it to be different than that?
I've seen it done both ways. I've seen it done where it had a rider on the motion, as Trustee Consolino said. You have a rider that says you can't start construction until you have, number 1, that Brett had referred to.
But that is number 1 that's built into here already.
So the county health department approves the septic field, and that's the end of it. Everything else is approved.
Right. So the number 1 covers that.
Yeah.
Is what I'm getting at.
So if you're at an impasse 3-3, I would suggest putting on a rider of approval by the county health department and be done with it.
What I'd like to ask you is one more question, if you don't mind. Being that you annexed the property, Trantina Farm, into Homer Glen 2 years ago to protect our boundary, as far as I understand, you don't have to stay there if you don't want to. And this could just be reversed. We could lose the protection of our boundary agreement at that point, and then this could go to Lockport, as they were looking to do at one time. So I just want to know, is our annexation agreement and the boundary agreement that came with it in jeopardy if this doesn't go through, and then could Will County approve it anyway?
Yeah, if there's a breach of the annexation agreement, we go to the county for all our approvals and we de-annex. That's right in the annexation agreement. I think there's an attorney here.
And then it would be strictly up to Wills County, and that's it, right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Yeah, I just want to respond about the grindings. This was on attachment 21 submitted by Advantage Consulting Engineers. And this was submitted by the township from, it says it right on here.
You want to walk out there with me and look at it?
You know what, I actually have samples and I almost brought them tonight, and I'm sorry I didn't, but I saw the grindings out there. I saw where they come. Actually, I have the pictures.
Commissioner Porfilio, can you please come back to the podium? Could the audience please refrain from talking?
I don't know what this has to do with the approval process, but when I was done with the clean clay last year, there was no grindings. If something was dumped on there since then, I don't go out there every day and look at it. To tell you the truth, there was no clay on there, and the contractor can attest to that too, because he took pictures when he was done.
Okay.
So if there's grindings that were dumped on there since then, Trustee Stylen, I had nothing to do with that.
Photos taken July 18th.
Like I said.
I'm happy to share them.
So
Can you tell me, was this document submitted by the township? This
I didn't
attachment
submit any of
21 from Advantage Consulting Engineers.
I am with Advantage Consulting Engineers.
Okay.
We have the note on there that says grindings. When the material was brought in, there was the thought that there could be grindings in there. If there were grindings in there, they were not allowed underneath the building. This note specifically says to be removed from under the building. The soils report came back that there were no grindings, contrary to whatever your photograph says, that if there are grindings, they can go underneath the parking lot. Other than that, the clay is clean, the clay has been approved by the soils engineer, and it's going to be used for underneath the parking lot. The concern was, we don't ever want to have grindings underneath the building. It was a precautionary action and note that I put on our plans.
Okay. What exactly are grindings?
When you have an asphalt road and they have the big machines that grind it all up and put into a truck, those are grindings.
And where did the soil come from?
I don't know.
Commissioner?
the soil came from a subdivision widening development in Orland Park.
Yeah.
M&J Underground was the contractor, and there's been emails and statements about where it came from before.
I actually went and looked at that site.
It's a subdivision site.
It was a subdivision, it was the culvert on the side of the road.
Yes, and it was the clay that was brought over was clean. It was tested
Okay.
before it came over.
Wasn't there a police report filed? I can't remember what month. Commissioner Porfilio, didn't somebody illegally dump there too? And you guys had to have the Will
Yes.
County Sheriff's Department go after it?
Yep.
Do you remember what month that was?
I don't remember. People do it in
And
the
that there
middle
were
of the night.
photos and that they got caught?
Yeah.
And it got all plowed over? And it all got magically, within 48 hours, it was all smoothed down? And tell me that that isn't still there, and that I shouldn't have a concern about a building on top of it? I'm sorry.
The building is located at the north end of the clay fill, and I don't even know why this is even coming up. When you grade the site, the grindings go to the lot, the clay stays where it's at. It's not brain tumor science here. I don't know why it's even coming up. You just keep grabbing things to try to turn it down.
You have the site where you're building, right on here.
The grindings will be pulled, the grindings actually should be used for the parking lot to save money on the asphalt, to tell you the truth. So that would be a wonderful thing if they were out there. But there's not enough, but we can use some of it to save money. That's actually a good thing.
Not if you have to haul it away.
No, we're not hauling it away. There's not enough even to construct the lots with the amount of grindings that would be out there. You'd need mounds of it like they have at the Public Works Department. That's what you would need to do the lots. 4 inches of it over that whole parking lot footprint. There's no way in hell there's that much out there. No way. So it will not be brought off-site. It could be used in a recycled manner for the asphalt, for the pavement, for the parking lots. It will not be trucked off-site.
Is that a picture? All right, are we done? Clerk, would you like to call a roll, please, on the motion to approve?
Trustee Stylen?
No.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Mason? Pass. Trustee Fialko?
Aye?
Trustee McNaughton?
No.
Trustee Mason?
Abstain.
Motion passes.
It's 3-3.
It's 3-3.
I did right.
No, abstain is not voting.
Is not, abstain is not voting.
Motion passes.
The motion passes.
Yeah, right.
I did say it. Okay. Yeah. Okay, moving on. Number 11.
Hold on.